I believe that we are ready to get started this afternoon, so I would like to call the meeting to order. We had a bit of technical difficulty, so we are a couple of minutes late. And just so that everybody knows, most of council is in the council chamber. We have Councillor Rob Boulanger attending via Zoom today. We also have with us our CAO, Deepak Rashidi, and Heather Stanek will be recording our meeting today. So with that, if I could have a resolution to adopt the agenda, please.
Resolve the agenda for the meeting be adopted and circulated with the noted additions. Communication for information, 9.2.3, Minister of Municipal Relations, and 9.7.2, Bulletin number 2021-34 from Municipal Relations.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Bazarowicz, Councillor Spicer seconds. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. And we do have a delegation before us today, and it is the chair of the Lord Selkirk School Division. Go ahead, Deepak.
Confirmation of the minutes.
Oh, sorry. Okay, we'll do the minutes first before we go to our delegation. So we do have one set of minutes from our regular meeting of June the 8th. If I could get the resolution for those, please.
Resolve the minutes of June 8th, 2021 regular meeting of council be adopted as presented.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Sutherland, Councillor Horwath seconds. Any discussion, corrections, changes? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Okay, now back to our delegation. I see Lena is on our screen here via Zoom, and I believe Jack is also attending via Zoom today. So the Lord Selkirk School Division asked if they could come and make a presentation regarding Bill 64. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Lena to go ahead with the presentation, and I believe that Deepak will put it up on the screen for us. So. Okay, go ahead, Lena. Thank you for joining us today.
Perfect. Thank you very much for having us. And first of all, we breathe a collective sigh of relief together with you. I know that there have been some very tense moments in our municipality, and we are delighted that there has been a resolution to the situation. Instead, it's a tough way to get into the news. So thank you for including us in your meeting this afternoon. I know some of you attended the town hall that we hosted back in April, and so I apologize if portions of this are redundant. We do have some additional information. And so I believe you have control of the slides.
Yes,
Could I go to the next slide then? So many of you are already very, very familiar with our school division, but just to recap briefly, we have 9 elementary schools, 3 junior high or middle schools, 1 K-9 school at Walter White, a Hatarian school, an off-site campus, and of course our high school. We have French immersion from K-12, and we have a Ukrainian bilingual program from kindergarten to grade 8 on the east side. And Lord Selkirk School Division serves 4,000 students and their families. The next slide. We were here 2 years ago meeting with you to talk about the K-12 education review. This was a review at a cost of around $1 million that was conducted between February and June of 2019. There are some of the numbers of submissions and participation from schools, from trustees, from parents, from students as well. And as part of our role, Jack and I submitted a formal brief, as well as we're one of 4 rural school divisions that were invited to present to the K-12 Commission on behalf of our school division. The next slide. So the reason that we're here today is to share with you some information regarding Bill 64, the Education Modernization Act. This is a bill that was first introduced in the House in the fall sitting in November of 2020. And then it disappeared from public scrutiny entirely until it was brought forward again together with the K-12 education review on March the 15th. The opposition party has delayed Bill 64 until the fall sitting, and it's anticipated that the second reading will occur on or around October the 7th this fall. The next slide. And I will turn it over to Jack now to share with you a little bit about what the structure, the proposed structure and changes are going to look like.
Thanks, Lena, and thank you, Council, for allowing us to be here today. So, Bill 64, as Lena said, is going through second reading and the committee stage sometime in October, probably going to be passed in November. As a board, along with the Manitoba School Board Association, many other associations in Manitoba, the opposition parties, as well as many in the public domain, were strongly opposed to Bill 64, mainly because it offers little in the way of improvement to student achievement and in fact could have the opposite effect. Bill 64 is a complete overhaul of the educational system as we know it. The 75 recommendations that were proposed by the $1 million K-12 educational review report are not reflected for the most part in this document. This slide is showing you our current governance system in education in Manitoba. On the left in dark blue, you can see the government body, Manitoba Education, and listed you can see all their responsibilities in regards to education. In green, we have representation of these 37 school divisions that are overseen by superintendent, secretary, treasurer, and an average of 8 trustees per board. Our board currently has 9 trustees. You can see the responsibilities of the board over on the right. There are 2 responsibilities that the government has already removed, and you probably heard about it, and that's setting mill rates for property taxes. We still set mill rates, but property taxes are being phased out and will no longer be collected by school boards. Collective bargaining, which we had a responsibility for with our local teachers association, will now be taken over by the government, and there'll be provincial bargaining. But even though those are removed from school boards still have a number of responsibilities that they carry out. Over on the right, you can see the influencers of education in Manitoba. These are the Manitoba Association of Parent Councils, the Manitoba Association of School Superintendents, the Manitoba Association for School Business Officials, Secretary Treasurers, and the Manitoba School Boards Association. Now, the thing that's missing from this diagram is currently in our system we also have parent advisory councils or advisory councils for school leadership, and they play a role, an advisory role in our current system. The government has said repeatedly that the problem with this model is that the administration of this system is too costly. Yet, currently, school funding spends only 3 cents of every dollar for highly qualified administrators and ½ cent on school boards and their trustees. This can be compared with 20 to 30 cents, which is considered standard for a well-run nonprofit charity. For-profit businesses spend a wide range of administration, but even here it's not as low as what is spent on the schooling of children. We go to the next slide. So this slide shows the new proposed education governance On the left, once again, you still have the government department, Manitoba Education, with their responsibilities. You'll notice immediately in green, the 37 school divisions will have been completely dissolved and replaced instead by 15 geographical regions. This change is to be completed by July 1st, 2022. At the top, you have a new government-appointed group. This is called the Provincial Education Authority, and it'll be formed to oversee the entire province. The four associations that you saw on the previous slide over to the right will have been eliminated, and the division Scolaire Franco-Manitobain will remain. They have charter rights, language rights. At the bottom is shown a Provincial Advisory Council on Education. This will represent the 15 new regions. Not shown, but below this are school community councils, which will provide recommendations and advice to the principal. So if you look at this, what the government is proposing is a complete overhaul of the current education system. If you go to the next slide, this shows the 15 new regions. So it's showing all of the previous school divisions that are being combined in new regions. And one can't help but wonder what criteria were used to determine these regions. If you look at the top, all current school divisions in Winnipeg have been combined into a large region, which will be made up of 247 schools and 100,368 students. That's Winnipeg, St. James, Assiniboia, Louisville, Montreal, and St. Louis and River East, all combined into one large region. If you contrast this with Lakeshore and Evergreen, Lakeshore and Evergreen has 18 schools, 2,489 students. Winnipeg, 247 schools, and 100,368 students. You may wonder how the government can justify this decision, as it seems hardly equitable. If you look, Lord Selkirk School Division will be no more. It will be combined in a region with Interlake School Division. The new region will be made up of 38 schools, 6,814 students. Currently, Lord Selkirk School Division has 15 schools and 4,000 students. Go to the next slide. This slide is a representation of how authority will flow through the new system. If you look at the top, you have the Premier of Manitoba, who appoints an education minister. They, in turn, appoint the Provincial Education Authority. Then you have an advisory board called the Provincial Advisory Council on Education. And below this, you have another advisory group, and this is made up of each school community council. But the thing to note about this diagram is that power rests in the hands of the Premier, Education Minister, and the Provincial Education Authority. Go to the next slide. This schematic shows a better representation of the new system. In green at the bottom, it shows school community councils. Each school is to have one made up of any parent with students in the school. There's no language permitting community members other than parents to sit on these councils. Parents will elect an executive made up of the president, the vice president, and the immediate past president. From all the councils, all the school councils in the region, any executive member can be nominated and run in an election against other school community council executive members in the region for the right to sit on the Provincial Advisory Council on Education, shown in green above the School Community Council box. This body will have one member elected for the region, making up a total of 15, plus there'll be one appointed trustee from the Division School there, Franklin, Manitoba. Superintendents who are currently hired by school boards will be replaced by regional directors who will be appointed by the Provincial Education Authority, one for every region. Although it's not been confirmed, there is speculation that regional directors may not necessarily have to have educational experience nor an educational background. So each region will be overseen by one regional director and one elected parent. Currently, if you look at Lloyd Selkirk School Division, it is overseen by one superintendent and 9 trustees. Interlake School Division is overseen by one superintendent and 7 trustees. So 2 superintendents and 16 trustees will be replaced by one director of education and one parent regional member, and be responsible for many more schools in a much larger geographical area. Essentially, this is not only a threat to the democratic right of citizens to elect their community representatives, but it also disenfranchises the electorate, as voting rights will be lost, and this can be seen as an overt attempt to suppress local voice and local control. Municipalities should be concerned, for if school boards are eliminated and government control is centralized, could municipal councils be next? School community councils and the Provincial Advisory Council on Education, as I said previously, only have the power to advise and make recommendations to the group in blue to the left. This is the Provincial Education Authority. The Provincial Education Authority will be made up of 11 people, 2 of which must be parents selected from the Provincial Advisory Council on Education. All members of the Provincial Education Authority will be appointed by the government and accountable to it. All educational power will be concentrated in this group. With the elimination of school boards, careers will end, jobs will be lost, as the duplication of services will result. Community focus will be removed as school divisions are replaced by bigger administrations serving more students and more communities. Access to decision makers will be far removed, and concerns will be needed to be taken to Winnipeg, no matter where people reside in the province. So some 300 locally elected school trustees will be replaced by 6 to 11 government appointees. This is a threat to and weakens public participation. Business owners will be affected as they will need to secure contracts and services related to schools in their community from Winnipeg rather than locally as they do now. The Provincial Education Authority, among its many other responsibilities, will be involved in procurement, which will now be done centrally, and this will have a major effect on municipalities. Even with the phase out of the education property tax, just as Manitobans who will continue to pay taxes and support local schools with no elected voice to ensure the money is invested locally. So the Provincial Education Authority will take over all facets of educational operation system, as well as the complete delivery of provincial education. They will also be the ones, as I said before, who appoint regional directors for each region. So education will be controlled by non-elected officials appointed by the government. Thank you for your attention, and back to Lee.
Thank you, Jack. Could we move to the next slide? So part of the motivation of the reform is to allow for a stronger voice of parents participating in decisions around their schools. But as Jack has already indicated, it will only allow for parents of students in that school to participate. A retired teacher or trustee or grandparent would not be allowed to participate. And so really they're asking parents who are, I would argue, already involved in their children's education to take on a greater responsibility. And you can see the list here is fairly detailed and intense, and somewhat concerning too when you consider that a group of parents could determine the need to evaluate the performance of any person employed at the school, to propose capital construction projects, to change school programs and activities, transportation of students, short and long-term priorities, the use of suspension and expulsion as disciplinary tools, policies implemented, and these would be required of parents who are volunteers. As elected trustees, we are required to sign an oath of confidentiality. We also sign a conflict of interest disclosure to ensure that we are objective in our decision-making and that we are serving the students in all of our schools, not just one particular school, so that we can respond to, in an equitable manner, to all of our schools, and to ensure that the programming and additional supports and services are available where they are needed. I know that there has been a lot of discussion, especially around municipal council tables, about Bill 71 and how at face value that seems like a great thing. Removing education tax from the property tax bill, I know is collecting the education tax is an onerous task, but in so doing, all funds that are raised locally stay local, so that programs and services that we support in our schools, all those monies are kept here. With the elimination of the education property tax, everything will go into a central pot, if you will. And so, and then the central authority will decide how those funds will be distributed. And if, for example, the English-Ukrainian bilingual program is felt to be important and a priority and worth funding, or the performing arts, or perhaps some vocational programs or other electives, someone or this central authority will decide how those monies will be spent. Where currently we are able to, together with the input of the public through our consultations, our community forums, where we seek input from our communities to determine what is important to them, what they value, and how those funds should be spent. And so, again, at face value, Bill 71 sounds like a great thing, but the bottom line is that education is still publicly funded, and whether they go to a income-based taxation, we will still be paying for it in one form or another. We just may not have any input into how those monies are spent. If we could move to the next slide, please, in a nutshell there. So very quickly, as Jack has indicated, Bill 64 dissolves school divisions and boards as they currently exist. And Jack has also indicated about the duplication of, for example, a transportation supervisor in our division and the interlinked school division. So there will be job losses. With the centralization of funding and the Central Education Authority, procurement will also be centralized. And so in our communities, I believe we pride ourselves in the shop local theme, and our high school, just as an example, the cafeteria prides itself in purchasing all the produce and foods that they serve in the cafeteria. All of that is purchased within a 100-mile or 100-kilometer radius of the school, and that has been a very deliberate endorsement of local growers and producers, so that what is being served in our cafeteria is in fact local. But with the implementation of Bill 64, there is no assurance that that will happen. In a recent document that has been put out, the fact versus fiction regarding Bill 64, this is one of the things that they are wanting to assure the public about. And so in their fact statement, where we are raising the concern about will we still be able to shop locally, will we be able to purchase things for our schools, will we be able to use local tradespeople to work in our buildings, to do some of our projects, and what the fact sheet indicates is that where it makes sense to do so, that every effort will be made so that local economies don't suffer. And so again, there is no assurance there. There is just acknowledgement that this is something that could happen. We've already talked about Bill 71. Presently, we are governed by the Public Schools Act, but with the implementation of Bill 64, Public Schools Act will no longer exist. And one of the concerns is that there's no language in Bill 64 regarding a moratorium on school closures. And while that is probably not a really big concern in our school division, we do have some smaller schools. Under the public schools, there would have to be extensive public consultation if there were to be any school closures, but there's no language in Bill 64 around that. And so some of the smaller communities where the school is the hub of that community and a large employer in that community, there's no language to say that, that schools won't be closed. And the concern then being if a school is closed in one community, that students would need to be bused to another community. And the ramifications of that with longer bus rides, with potential loss of jobs, will people have to move, what will happen to small local communities. The other couple of things that I would like to touch on really, really quickly is the language piece, that presently under Bill 64, only English and French are protected. And again, we have the English-Ukrainian bilingual program at Happy Thought and ESMS. Other schools and other divisions offer some indigenous languages or Tagalog, even Punjabi. And there is no protection under Bill 64 that any of those other languages will be supported. And I guess the biggest driving force that the government is hoping to achieve with Bill 64, the first being saving money, the second is to improve student outcome. And their basis for looking at improved student outcome is outcomes on standardized testing. And it does not take into account child poverty. And there is lots of research across the country that indicates that socioeconomic status is the greatest determinant in student outcome. Manitoba has the highest incidence of child poverty in Canada, and We know that poverty is a huge contributor to absenteeism in schools, and being absent from school, it contributes greatly to student achievement and student outcomes. And so when we trace that back, poverty plays a tremendous role in student outcome, and there is no language in Bill 64 to address this or to address child poverty. And so we've already talked about equity and how can one parent possibly represent 4,000 students. In our town hall back in April, one of the parents inquired, if I have a student in kindergarten, how could I possibly know anything about vocational programs or performing arts or any of the other challenges that may be at play in middle years or high school. I'm interested in field trips and those kinds of opportunities for my child. And for parents that maybe don't, English is a second language, or may not have had a good experience or a positive experience in school, or may not understand the system, are they going to be able to participate in a meaningful way? And so I'm sure that you get the idea that we have lots of concerns about Bill 64. And so what our main purpose of presenting today was not to fearmonger, as has been suggested. And certainly we understand that some of what we've shared with you is speculation, but it's speculation based on the things that are not present in Bill 64. And without concrete answers, we are left to try and problem solve and to make best decisions with the information that we have. And so our ask of you today is to talk about this with your neighbors, with your family, with friends, with people that you bump into at the grocery store, to talk about it and to ask questions. There are lots of webinars, lots of forums that are nonpartisan, and we, as trustees, are nonpartisan. We do not endorse any political party. And if it were the Liberals or the NDP that were suggesting this, we would be coming with this same approach. So again, the ask is to talk about it. And if there are questions, if you would like additional information, we have lots of information available through our provincial association. Any of us as trustees do as well. And so we would welcome questions today, or if you think of something after the fact, we have our contact information available on our division website. If you'd like to email us or call us, we'd be more than delighted to speak with you. So if there are any questions or any comments, we'd be very happy to field those.
Okay, thank you for that, Lena. As you said, there is an opportunity for some questions, and I see that one of our councillors has his hand up, and it's Councillor Belanger, so I'll start there, and then I'll go around the room here to see if anybody else has any questions. So go ahead, Councillor Belanger.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Hi, I got three things. It's pretty obvious that it's clear that this government's totalitarian style of steering the ship on Broadway is once again rearing its ugly head. It's unfortunate, but that's just the way they seem to want to, function this province. Number two, clearly a cost-saving measure. This is clearly trying to save the proverbial dollar. It's still another classic example of the way this government's running this province. Thirdly, if they think that volunteerism, that volunteer parents are going to make this program run smooth as silk, I think they're going to be in for a really big surprise. Those are just my comments.
Thank you for that, Rob. Anybody else have any comments around the room? Questions? Okay, I believe that all the information that you shared today, Lena, is on your website along with some additional information and all your contact information. So I'm not seeing any hands go up. And I guess the other thing that as you well know, we are a large municipality and we actually do have 3 school divisions in our municipality. So Lord Selkirk being one, and I guess River East will end up in the Winnipeg School Division. And I missed on the listing where the, I guess it's the Sunrise School Division is going to end up. So, there's a lot for this council to look at and the residents and our ratepayers with the 3 school divisions within the municipality. So if there are no other questions, I would like to thank you and Jack for participating today. And if anybody has anything, I will get them to go straight to the website and contact you folks directly.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. If I could just mention one more thing. I know that our colleagues across the province have also been meeting with their local municipal governments. And to date, there are 2 municipalities. Grahamdale is one. Jack, can you help me out here with the other one?
I think it was St. River.
Okay. St. River and Grahamdale are 2 municipalities that have drafted resolutions in support of local school boards, and so I'm just putting that out there that there is discussion around the province and people are getting involved. There are currently over 400 individuals that have registered to speak to the Standing Committee on Bill 64 after second reading, so in October prior to the November 3rd reading date. And a local, I believe it was the Free Press, the most people that have registered to present to any standing committee was back in 2008, where 273 individuals registered to speak to the Hog Barn Band. And so we have over 400 registered to speak to this, and so we're pleased and delighted that so many people are getting involved. And again, our ask is just that you talk about it more. So thank you very much, Eileen, for your time, and we wish you a wonderful summer.
Thank you. Same to you and your family, and Jack, you and your family. And as far as discussion, we can have some discussion later in our meeting. And if there are other municipalities that are putting motions forward, we may even look into that. And if we do choose to go in that direction, you will definitely be notified of council's intention. So
Again, thank you so much for your time.
you're very welcome.
Thank
Take
you very
care.
much.
Yeah, have a good summer. Okay, we will go on to our communications for action, and I think we all had a sheet on our desk for the virtual meeting tomorrow for the Red River Basin Commission. And I'm not sure what Heather has there, who's all decided that they're going to go or going to partake at home. Deepak and I had a brief discussion, and because it's in the evening, we thought that everybody who wanted to participate could participate from home. It wouldn't be set up here in the chambers, so.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have a resolution, if that's the way.
Yep.
Resolved, mayor and councilors be authorized to attend the Red River Basin Commission North Chapter virtual meeting on Wednesday, June 23rd, 2021.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Horwath, second. Councillor Sutherland. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. And the other one we have is the Red River Planning District meeting tomorrow. That's a virtual meeting tomorrow, and it is, I believe that is for all members of council, not just the board. So with that, I didn't pull it up here. Is there anything more that we need there?
Just to identify who's all attending. We've identified all of council as we've been doing for all virtual meetings.
Yeah, that's fine. So if there's no questions or anything, I'll have the resolution read and we'll move forward with it.
Resolved, Mayor and councillors be authorized to attend the virtual RRPD education session on Wednesday, June 23rd, 2021.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Spicer, Councillor Strang seconds. Discussion. Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. So that takes us down to number 6 on our agenda, which is new and other business. And the first item we have is the Lester Boulder donation from Red River North Trail. If you could go ahead with that one, please do that.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. What I provided is a decision paper, and I will just share it so Councillor Boulanger can also see it. And I'll just walk you through it. This is in recognition of Alice Lester for gifts in kind to the Army St. Clements of the Red River North Trails project. This is recognizing those gifts. Alice Lester, matriarch of the Lester family, who has provided gifts in kind to the Red River North Trails Association, incorporated from 2016 to present for trail projects. The catalyst for this project has been Dan Lester from Red River Trails North as the executive director of the Red River North Trails Association. The gifts in kind from the Lester family has been provided in memoriam to the husband of Alice, Jubilee Lester, Thomas Alexander Upton Lester. From 2016 to 2020, Alice Lester has provided gifts in kind from totaling over $174,000 in aggregates and boulders to the Arm St. Clements, Alexander, Victoria Beach. Specifically in this time period, the gifts in kind was for over $45,000 for the Arm St. Clements trails near Grand Beach Provincial Park, north and south side of the park. For 2021, the Lester family, under the same process, has donated gifts in kind, being 30 boulders for the East Sulphur Trail, going from the old Henderson Highway to Coville Road to assist in mitigation of unauthorized vehicles on the trails. These unique boulders came from the Lester family Eleanor Lake Quarry, which was near the entrance to the White Shell Provincial Park along Provincial Road 307. Originally, the Lester family donated 8 boulders to the East Sulphur Trail installed by MVP Turf Management to mitigate vehicles over a month ago. In order to address further ratepayer complaints for off-train vehicles and ATVs utilizing the walking trails, an additional 22 boulders were installed by MVP Turf Management for Red River North Trails Association. The Lester family will also be participating in the 2021 for 2 Red River North Trails Association projects for the Building Sustainable Communities program by donating gifts in kind aggregate to the Grand Marais area in Path 12 safe highway crossing near the Grand Marais Community Center and a Grand Marais Lagoon parking area for the Great Trail. As mentioned, all of the above were donated by Alice Chaudebert Lester in memoriam for the late Thomas Alexander Upton Lester. This was all done in memoriam to Thomas Alexander Upton Lester, husband of Alice Gilbert Lester, who passed away August 16, 2005. The recommendation is in recognition of the generosity from the Lester family, a resolution from council identifying its appreciation for the gifts in kind on behalf of all residents of St. Clements is being recommended. And I have a resolution there for Madam Mayor for discussion purposes.
Okay.
Oh, I'm
Anybody?
sorry, I just lost my screen there. I'll just reshare.
Anybody have any questions, comments, or shall we just go ahead with the resolution? Go ahead, Councillor Boulanger.
No, just thinking down the road, if we're ever putting benches or sitting areas on some of our active transportation trails, that we maybe name a bench after some of this, some of this good stuff that they donated.
Yeah. Anybody else, anything? Councillor
I have one
Sutherland, did you
question.
have your hand up? Go
It's
ahead.
kind of related, unless I'm blind, but was there a boulder over here on the trail, just off Cobble?
Yeah,
It's
just
gone.
on the south side side of Colville, right from property line to property line. There's a number of boulders across there now. It's not just on the rail bed.
Okay, but on the north side, was there not a big boulder there?
No, there's the little, I don't know, I don't remember a boulder there. There's the little kiosk where they're gonna put some maps as to where you can go, but I think the way it was explained in one of the emails that came last week, that from Colville north, it is an all-purpose trail for ATVs, and I think that came through from Hartley Pokrant.
Okay.
Yes.
And to the south, it's just pedestrian, so,
Okay, thank you.
okay. Anybody else?
Dave says I must be too. He yelled to the store, there was a boulder there and it's gone. but-
So we took it
Well,
already,
they
yeah.
might have had one there and moved it, because I know that there are, and there's actually, if you walk on the trail from Old Henderson Highway towards the railway track, and then the ATVs and dirt bikes used to come over the railway track and hit to the fire hall, they can't do that anymore either, because they've got boulders on both sides there, so they can't get through there. So it's been pretty quiet in the village the
Just
last few
quieter.
days.
I
Yeah.
think Dave's probably right.
Yeah. Did we want Deepak to read the resolution? Pretty much everything that's in the resolution he already said, and we all have it in front of us, unless you want to read it, Deepak.
I can read it if you like, Madam Mayor.
You're good with it?
I'm
Yeah,
good.
Okay. Okay, and that's moved by Councillor Bazarowicz, second by Councillor Strang. Any discussion on the resolution? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, opposed, and that is carried. Okay, so the next one we have is 6.2. It's an addition to the advertising policy, and we do have some administrative comments there. And maybe I'll just let Deepak just give us a quick outline of what we're doing here.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is policy 336, and as part of this policy, there was several different advertisements that have been identified that were regularly advertised through the local paper. One that was missed was the Don't Drink and Drive advertisement, where we also encourage don't drink and drive, and it wasn't as part of the policy. Now, the total, in order to make sure that we're consistent with our policy, we're asking to put that back in, or put that into our policy, so that our staff can then process it. By adding this to the policy, which we are already doing, our cost savings are from $7 an ad to $5 an ad. So there is a savings overall being able to have that number of ads.
Okay, any questions or comments? Go ahead, Councillor Strang.
What is the cost per ad that, like, it's great we're doing a saving, adding the one, but what is the cost per ad that we,
$5 per ad.
that's it, for $5? I thought it was just the savings of $5 per ad, okay. Okay.
No, I think because we do so many of them, and it's
There's
like,
a discount and a volume discount.
yeah.
I just know some of the ads show that, like, you know, the different sponsorships to on some of the events.
Yeah, yeah, so.
Thank you for that.
Okay, if we can have the resolution for that one then, please.
Resolved, council authorizes administration to add don't drink and drive advertisement to policy number 336.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Corbis, second. Councillor Boulanger, any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, opposed, carried. Okay, then we have 6.3, the South St. Clements Playground, and there's some proposals there for some playground equipment for the proposed site.
Thank you,
That's
Madam Mayor. I'll
site.
just do the share for Council Boulanger's purposes as well, and make it a little bit larger for myself to see. And what this is, the request for proposals, as you know, that we received funding to be able to put in a play structure at the South St. Clements Activity Center. And as part of that activity center, we received funding from the foundation, as well as Building Sustainable Communities, and the RMS committed some $60,000 towards the play structures to meet the matching requirements of the Building Sustainable Communities program. And with that, an RFP was, or a tender was issued and several proposals were received. The winning proposal came, by analysis, came from Playgrounds R Us as the option 1 proposal. They did submit 2 proposals, option 1 and option 2. Although there were 6 different companies that provided and 10 proposals received, this one was designated as the highest in its category. And what we did was we did an analysis on what were the final number tally. And there was specific requirements as associated to the tender package as to meeting those requirements and what their how they each one of those met. And then there were some additional items in there, such as play value for cost, excuse me, wow factor, meaning design, material, so forth, seating and benches, if there were additional seating or benches made available, a musical component. The musical components are sometimes those metal things for children to hit, and a xylophone and those kinds of things that can be part of it. And so all of that was taken into consideration, and Playgrounds R Us came in at the highest, with the second highest coming in high between a few of them. And so it was a very close situation. The design itself is a very nice, encouraging design. It has components built into it for handicap. Thank you. There's components built into it for handicap purposes, so there's also a component in there for people in wheelchairs to use. There's also opportunities for children that may be handicapped to be able to use. That may be able to use the swings and so forth. So all those things were taken into consideration as part of this design. And as you can see, it does have some, and we have a second document in there. So some of those components were shades for the children. As you know, as we're waiting for the trees and the rest of the area to increase. And so you can see that this can be shared where a mother can sit with a child as well if they were having mobility issues, and there's ability to be able to access children who have mobility-related issues. And you can see the several different components of it as to how they are set up and how that structure would be established. And it's all in materials that require least amount of maintenance, so that was another consideration. And as you can see, the slides are much more wider and access. So based on that, what we're recommending is that that we proceed with the proposal from Playgrounds R Us as our recommended proposal that is also within budget.
Okay, any questions or comments on the proposal put before us before we get to the resolution? Okay, I think Brendan did a good job of getting a lot of information there for us, so.
Heather has, she's gonna.
Oh, sorry, Heather.
Second decision paper,
I will get to that next.
the resolution's always one, so.
Oh, resolutions go to the one, okay, sorry, thank you. So the second is, in addition to this, what I have is, let me bring up for Sharon, the counselor as well. And so what this is, as you saw, as you saw from the sign, from the playground structure, what it was lacking is shade. The intent was that there'd be shade available eventually for trees and other things, but there's a lack of shade for parents to be sitting and observing as the children are watching. And so the unique thing was that the second proposal for Playgrounds R Us, which didn't come as high on some of the other factors, but it did have a shade component. And so it was a tough decision, and what we looked at was maybe what we can do is expand on this proposal, and so we asked for a quote to see if we could have a shade. So the original tender, Playgrounds R Us, option 1, meets all of those requirements. With option 2, what we're looking at is recommending to council that we go ahead with a shade component from the other proposal and add it into this project, and that we would find funds from existing budgets. And the cost of that would be a total of $12,000 for putting the shade component. To give you an idea of what that shade looks like, this gives you an idea that it would be a shade that would be used, and it would be located right here, so as you have the children playing, parents would be able to sit on benches and other things that be shaded from the materials or from the elements. And so as you can see, there'd be benches there. And the opportunity is that we can also take a look at doing some sponsorship as part of the shade in order to recover some of those funds.
Go ahead, Councillor Sutherland.
I imagine for 12th, it would be an all weather. It's not something of a structure you'd have to take down in the winter.
No, this is a permanent kind of structure. That's why the expense.
Okay.
And,
Yeah, thank you.
Anybody else have any questions?
Is it cloth on top or what?
no,
Tarp or is it plastic or?
the plastic type, as I recall, is what's on there. As I recall, it was a permanent type of a structure.
It's durable, so.
It's very durable, yes.
Go ahead, Councillor Strang.
If this is the same playground company that, well, the stuff is made from recycled plastic, so it's a recycled, this is the, I was reading so many of them there that, because I thought the same thing. Councilor Herbert said that, I thought at first it was like a tarp or something too that had to be maybe removed.
Playgrounds are us, are the biggest. We haul their stuff up north to all the schools and the First Nations. They do a lot of work up north.
These are all type of a plastic, as I understand it. So they will be. I'm not sure about whether this is the one just as you, Councilor, I can't remember which one.
Yeah, I was reading so many of them too, and I can't remember, because there was one that was very environmentally, and I know Brenna was very big on that also for,
It all comes in from the States, all this stuff.
I believe there's one in Ontario also that was,
Maybe
quite
a
close
company
thing,
there, but this stuff all
this one
comes from
from
the
the
States.
Okay, so if we're all good and there are no further questions, I'll ask for the resolution, please.
The resolution for it is resolved. Council award tender to the South St. Clements Playground Project to Playgrounds R Us at a cost of $149,184.56 plus GST. And further be it resolved, council authorized the CAO to purchase the cool topper pyramid shade from Playgrounds R Us at a cost of $12,000 plus GST.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Sutherland, Councillor Spicer seconds. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. And I just lost my,
Sorry, Madam Mayor, I'll bring it back.
so,
It's 6.4.
okay. If you could just go ahead and I'll try and log back in here.
And thank you, Madam Mayor. What we have here is a request seeking endorsement for a private member's bill, C-313, Banning Symbols Paid Act. And what it is from is MP Peter Julian and from New Westminster Burnaby. And what he's requesting is in light of some of the hate and some of the issues related to the pandemic, that there's been increase in hate-related crimes to Asians, as well as there was a recent event where in London, Ontario, a Muslim family was attacked and killed. And is to put forward a motion of council supporting the bill as a private member's motion.
Okay, any questions or comments? Go ahead, Councillor Horbus.
I'd like to move that.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? If not, I will have Deepak read our resolution for us, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll do it again. I'm just keep losing my share. Bad habit. So with this bill is resolved on behalf of 10,876 citizens of the rural municipality of St. Clements, the mayor and council of RM St. Clements endorses MP Peter Julien's private member's motion M84 anti-hate crimes and incidents, and his private member's bill C-313 banning symbols of hate act. And it's moved by
Councillor Horbus. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Gazarowic seconds. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, the next one we have is Manitoba Good Roads, and I think we kind of went over this before, but there is an extension to the deadline for submissions, and I believe that the staff has sent in our entrance. But I guess it's come back because if there is anything more, we can still submit it. And I know that we had talked here about a road being entered, and speaking with Deepak the other day, Greg did not have any roads to be entered this year, but we will definitely have for next year if they still have the competition going. So I don't know if there's anything else that anybody wants to add. Go ahead, Councillor Sutherland.
The last time, did we enter, is it the new road, Concrete Road, in Loosley subdivision?
I don't know if we ever entered that one, because that road is now a couple of years old. I
Yes,
think.
is
Yes.
it too late for it?
Oh, go ahead.
We've entered it.
You have entered it at one point in time? Okay, Heather
Oh.
is saying that we have entered it in the
Okay.
past, so
That answers that.
we'll scrap that. And I don't know whether, hopefully there'll be some judging and actual, driving out to
Yeah.
some of these places this year, but nothing confirmed. And I was trying to talk Tara into having a meeting, even if it was via Zoom, because I am on the board, to see where we're going with everything, so.
I think the ones we submitted, I did share that with council.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so there is nothing really to do with that one, so that brings us down to 6.6, and that is our ward boundary review, and I think there's some administrative comments there. Deepak or Heather, do you have anything more that you would like to share with us?
Specifically, as part of the municipal act, council must review a bylaw that establishes the ward boundaries and the number of councillors elected to represent each of the wards at least once per term. Any changes to the bylaw must be implemented at least 180 days before the next general election. And so when determining the wards, each municipality may also take into consideration topographic and natural boundaries as part of that entire process. And Highway 44 and other kinds of natural boundaries can be used as they are presently. And as we all know, the determining factor is an equity in the amount of population per wards. So it's not necessarily how many wards, but it's a level of equity. So creating a specific ward has to make sure that it's equally representative as to all the other wards, as opposed to going at large.
Comments? Go ahead, Councillor Horbus.
Are they equal now, more or less?
They are within the time, within that amount. We can certainly, we have time, if you'd like us, we can certainly look at to make sure.
Well, I was just
that they're
wondering,
within-
like, you know.
I think at the last election, that was a review, and at that point, they were within the tolerance range that's required.
What is the tolerance?
It's a very good question, and I can't remember that off.
But we have just over, it would be, if it worked out, it would be just over 5,000 residents on either side of Highway 44. Because you got to remember that it's only permanent residents that are counted for this. Your cottage country residents are not counted unless they're permanent residents. So,
But you still get to vote if you're a cottage.
You still get to vote if you own a cottage in the municipality, it's just that you are not counted as a full-time resident.
So that 10,000 is something, is that full-time residents?
Yeah, that is full-time residents, 10,876.
What would the number be for the cottage people, roughly?
Oh, I would have to say.
Which cottage?
Just cottage in general, I think Council Horvis is asking.
There's 307 Gull Lake, probably
Couple
maybe
Couple hundred.
200 in the rest of the areas.
So maybe that's it, no, wouldn't be that. So probably maybe 1,000.
If not.
Aye.
Go ahead, Councillor Boulanger, sorry.
There is approximately 5,000 cottages between the Broken Head River and Victoria Beach. So from Broken Head River all the way north with all of our areas, including Victoria Beach, is about 5,000
Cottages,
cottages.
yeah.
Is that on Google or?
That's from Councillor Boulanger's past life, so. Okay, so I think if we're all okay with the ward boundary where it is, I think there's nothing further for council to do. We have looked at it, and if everybody is in agreement, then we will not proceed any further, and the wards will stay as wards 1 and 2 for the upcoming 2022 election. Okay, so we can move on. The next one would be council meeting dates.
So, council meeting dates, I thought it'd be important to at least bring up all our council meeting dates, make sure that they're identified, and have some discussion about, especially the next little while, to schedule some of the other committee of the whole meetings, if you'd like to see some of those scheduled, as well as I do have a request for a special meeting of council to address some items, and that would be for June 29th.
And I,
Week from today.
yes, that would be a week.
Correct.
9:30?
9:30 in the morning.
But you already told us about that, didn't you?
We have an education session going on
Yeah.
in advance of that, and our hope is that we can do a special meeting of council
In advance of 9:30?
at 9:30, and then we would do the education session after that.
The only thing that I noticed on that list of council meeting dates, and I'm not sure how the bylaw reads, but normally the last or the 4th Tuesday in December, we don't have a meeting because the office has been closed, and I see it is listed on here.
The 4th Tuesday,
Yeah, December
If
28th.
you refresh, it's gone.
Oh,
December 14th.
well, when I
Sorry,
looked at
go
this
over.
yesterday, it was there,
Yeah,
so.
December 28th.
December 28th was there yesterday, so, and I didn't look at all today. Okay,
I
so.
can only go by what's black and white, madam.
Yes, yes. It was black and white yesterday.
I apologize for that.
That's okay, not a problem. Okay, so other than, not other than, are having our education session and a special meeting next Tuesday, which is June the 29th. And I think Deepak would like to know if we, as a council, would like to have some committee meetings, when and with who. Is that correct?
Correct, specifically for July, August, mainly because we only have one council meeting in July and August. And so I thought it'd be good to maybe identify in advance a date for the committee of the whole meetings. And so that we can make sure that everyone is prepared. Just for council's information, I will be away for the week of July the 6th, for that 1 week.
So what do you think we need to have meetings with? What would you suggest?
I would suggest that we have a meeting in July and August as a committee of the whole meetings, because I think it was quite useful to have discussions when we had with economic development and and recreation and others. So it's to give council an update on some of those other functional areas. And we wanted to have some more discussions on planning, just on planning applications, where we are, what's happening in our development side of it, as well as wanted to talk more about communications with council, some of our functional areas. And then, of course, public works is always a hot topic in council, just as updates. So I would suggest that if I'll bring up a calendar here, I can suggest certain dates if you like. We're going to stay consistent with Tuesdays if we can, so we could look at the next council meeting here is July the 27th. We could look for one on July the 20th or the 13th. 13th might be a little tight. I may not be back, depending on the traveling issues that I may encounter. I'm leaving on that Saturday, on the 19th, or sorry, the 15th. I may have some challenges because I'll be possibly the 11th or 12th to be able to get back. But in my absence, Greg Elson is going to be acting as the acting CIO, so
You're on the chain right
you
now.
can have Greg at that meeting.
Well,
So we have the 22nd is already, the 27th is already booked, so we can do the 20th or the 13th is your choice. 13th, there's a risk that I may not be here, but I can certainly do it on the road if necessary.
okay, I guess my only other question is, and I know, that everybody is entitled to holidays and things like that, but around the council table, are there any other council or any council members that are going to be away? I know Councillor Sutherland came back for today's meeting and he's going to be heading out, and probably will zoom in for next week if you can, if the connections work, so.
I'll have to go, I'll try, yeah. 'cause
Yeah,
if I
try
go
it
to a
ahead
hotel,
of
I
time,
can-
yeah, try it ahead of time and see what you can figure out. But is there anybody else who's planning on being away in the next, over the summer months? I know travel is a little bit limited and things like that, but just so that there's not many conflicts and most of us are here for our meetings, so.
First week of August for me.
First week of August for you? Okay, so well, let's try for a committee of the whole on the 20th then,
20th of
July.
of July.
Okay.
In August, we could try for a committee of the whole on the second week of August, if you like, or the
On the 10th?
On the 10th? Okay, so,
So we got June the 29th at 9:30, July the 20th at 9:30, and August 10th at 9:30?
correct.
yeah,
And then we can determine September on afterwards, but that should cover us for the next 2 months, especially during the summer.
okay, so I think we have that resolved for the time being. And if something does come up in the meantime, hopefully, like there's enough Tuesdays that we should be able to, if something does come up and we have to have a special meeting or something, we can do it on a Tuesday. But hopefully with next week's meetings, we'll get a lot, or next week's meeting, we'll get a lot of kind of lingering issues moving forward or off our table, so.
The only issue that I need to give you a heads up on is that our RFP for the Guns Creek will be coming back in July, and around that time, we run into some issues, we may have to do a short, quick meeting to be able to make a decision on the tender for the works for going under Henderson and connecting the rest of the creek.
Okay,
Problems there, or?
There's been some challenges, definitely, and I can discuss those with
Okay, so moving on, we'll go to 6.8 on the agenda, the municipal office Christmas lighting.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There was some discussion during the budget process about putting in some funding to do some lighting, and especially the council building itself and the area in East Selkirk. And in the area in East Selkirk, what we've looked at is what can we do to do some Christmas lighting in this area. So what we're recommending is proceeding with the Christmas light guys who submitted a proposal. And the proposal basically identifies, Councillor Blanche, would you like me to share I'll share that, which is the Christmas lights guys proposal. And what they're proposing is they've done some examples of how it can be put up along the frame of the building itself, and lights in that area, and possibly around some of the trees and so forth. And they've given a couple of different designs, but of course those will be a lot straighter. It's just a mock-up design of how the lights could run across, lighting up this area. And they've given some examples of what they can do. So what we're recommending is to proceed with utilizing this as our way of moving forward.
Okay, any questions or comments? Go ahead, Councillor Sutherland.
Yeah, like they gave us examples. If we gave them that, like the area that, like for example, there's lighting going across the top. Is that all it involves? And a few trees. The reason I'm asking, has Greg been, is it something Public Works could put up or no? I just, if it was a really elaborate system, I could see it. I'm not to say it's not, but if they don't, it's a flat roof. The edge, I don't know how much work is involved to actually put the light up ourselves. Just asking a question. I'm not against.
There would be a cost associated to Public Works doing it. At that time of the year, there's not a lot of staff around that aren't, if they're not dealing with other issues in the RM. We'd have to make arrangements for this, as well as other lighting arrangements that he's already doing. What we thought was just keep this, because then we don't have to worry about maintaining the lights or managing them. This is putting them up, taking them down, making sure every one of those bulbs is all working, all proper, and so forth. So it does take time.
Okay, well, I'd like to kind of know what we would get for the money.
Sure.
I know that's an example, but if that's the example, just a string across there and a couple of trees, it's not a big job. That's.
Well,
I'm just asking the question, like what would we get for, that's all.
Yeah, building lights / front of building only, so I'm not sure whether that's like around the doors or wherever. It doesn't really give a lot of detail. Lights are on top of blue roof, so that's where you're talking about, around the top here.
I'm just asking, is
Yeah.
that the only thing, or what do we get for the money?
Yeah, it's not super clear here. Councillor Spicer, were you going to say something, or Councillor Strang?
I was just elaborating, sorry.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Speaking out of turn.
Councillor Strang and then Councillor Horvis.
I was going to ask, we only have this one price quote. Is there the other RMs, like is this who the other RMs use too? Like say, I know West St. Paul or East St. Paul that uses, they decorate their RM office too, or do they use the same company?
I can certainly, if you'd like, I can go back and answer those questions and bring this back at the next council meeting.
And I just want to make another comment that our building, I know this is only the front, but our building is seen from all sides. I don't know if it's something that, I guess those are the hooks that are cost at the very beginning, and then it's just putting the lights up.
That's what I want to know, is what do we do?
Yeah.
What is our plan?
Yeah, a little bit more detail of what they would provide for the $2,000. Like it says here, lights around top of blue roof. So to me, when I read that, the extended part of the roof, the lights would be right around the whole thing when I read that. But is that what we're getting?
Around the whole building, yeah.
Around the whole top of the building, like the, yeah.
Don't we have a truck, Dave, with the scissor thing on there that puts all those
No.
Christmas trees up in there?
We used to contract out from Stonewall, or
There's a fellow in
so
Stonewall
I
that
don't know if we
has.
still use
Oh, does it?
that's what we
So
do.
there's,
I think it's a different vacuum.
Maybe he do the lights.
Yeah, well, it's a flat roof, so
Yeah.
to put the attachments up to hold the lights when it's a flat, you know, you go up on the roof, I don't think it's all that hard. That's what I'm getting at. And I don't have a problem with us contracting it out, but like, as I say, what is the building gonna look like, where the light's gonna go? And how much does it cost? You know, if they're doing around the whole building and the doorway, that's fine. I'm
So
good with that.
for 3 years, it's $4,000? No, it's how much?
No, I don't know here, it's.
what it is, as an example, is the installation of lights around the windows. And starting at the top window down every 2 feet. They're talking about lights colored. We determine that with that around the parapet, it's the clips at the top of the Tyndall stone, and then that's the price. And then after that, the price goes down to $682. So what it is double the price initially, the clips
Just put
are.
everything up to-
And so then the second, and as well as along the parapet and so forth, again, that's 340 of those clips we put up there. They're estimating at $3,400, and then subsequent years they'd be at half that price, similar to the others. So putting the lights up are half the price as opposed to doing the clipping on the first year.
So it's $8,000?
Correct.
$8,000?
If you did all of that. Because I think the recommendation is less.
Well, that's not how the resolution reads, though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
The resolution makes not to exceed $2,000.
Right.
So there's something off there. Go ahead, Councilor.
yeah,
Spencer.
they're only recommending part of what that quote was.
Which is the $2,000 for doing the front of the building only and lights around the top of the roof. That's what the recommendation is coming back
And if that's 2,000.
at. $2,000, that'd be $1,300 every year.
So you need to get into the light.
Comments,
Yeah,
queries,
slap those up there
anybody?
like nothing.
Go ahead, Councilor Belanger.
I'm going to kind of agree with Councillor Sutherland. I mean, Christmas lights, you generally want to put up on a nice, warm, comfortable fall day before the inclement weather comes. You go up in the roof, it's a flat roof. We buy a bunch of nice lights. Our staff can go up on the roof and put them on. Once the lights are up, they stay up there. They don't come down. You know, you're not up there in December freezing on a frozen ladder. They're put up on a nice warm day. They can be put up in the summer as well. I don't know. For the amount of money that's being in the quote there, I mean, we could buy the lights, buy some really nice lights, get the trees down front, and call it a day.
Okay, I'll come back and I'll do an analysis with Public Works, and I'll also look at what other RFs are doing.
Yeah, because I know there's even, like, I know there's a couple of places in the village here, I don't know if they did them last year, but they had evergreens that are, I don't know how many feet tall, and they used to have somebody come in with a bucket truck and do it. So, you know, there's lots of different things, like it might even be less expensive to have somebody come with a bucket truck to do the 3 trees out in front if that's what we wanted. And, you know, if our guys could do the building, or, you know, a combination, it doesn't have to be all our guys are all contracted out, so.
Okay.
Okay, so DPAC will get additional information, and I'm kind of curious to see if this was the only company that submitted a quote, or if that's the only company we went to, or, you know,
This is the
so.
only one that submitted a code, as I recall, several were approached.
Okay. Yeah, okay. All right,
Maybe
so.
the time of the year that we approached it, we're instituting.
Well, yeah, maybe not, but I guess I have to agree with Councillor Belanger's comment that, you know, it doesn't have to be done in December, it could be done in October, toward the end of October. I mean, our guys are busy, but I think we have enough seasonal staff. If we could keep our seasonals on for, you know, a week or so longer to get some of this done, that would work too, so.
Okay.
Okay, so we are down to our accounts on our agenda. Number 7, the first item we have is our closed list of accounts, and I believe we should have a resolution for that.
Resolved, council approved the June 22nd, 2021 list of accounts, check numbers 21001170 to 21001327 in the amount of $898,986.28 for
Okay, can I have a mover, please? Counselor Sutherland, second. Counselor Bazarowicz. Any discussion, questions, comments? I just have one kind of, maybe it's a comment more than a question. When it came down to the visas, I see that we still have Colleen's name listed on one of the visas. Has that been changed or?
That's been changed since then, it's just that it was still registered under her name.
Okay, so, but on our listing, they could have changed the name to whoever it is, so, because it's a typed list that we get at the end of the finance. Heather and then Scott.
We just haven't completely canceled that one visa,
Okay,
but it's, yes, that will
Okay.
change.
okay.
Yes, and the main reason I think was because we have all our points on that particular visa.
Oh, and you can't change the name on it?
No, we had to get a brand new visa. We
Okay,
have to wait for those points to get transferred.
before you,
But-
okay, that makes sense then.
Plus, we had to get all our vendors that have the number on file
Right,
to
Change.
change over. So
Okay.
we would have canceled it immediately,
yeah,
huge mess.
okay.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead, Counselor Spicer.
That's good to know. I just assumed that Colleen left us her visa card.
And we were using it?
The advantage is when we get to the new system under the Royal Bank, we'll be able to do all these kinds of changes ourselves.
Yeah, so, okay, go ahead, Counselor.
I still haven't gotten my visa yet. It's been in the mail or what's happening.
I don't mind.
I know, I'm just wondering, everybody, it's,
I think it's coming with your COVID card.
okay.
Okay, so I believe I had a mover and a seconder for the resolution. If there's no further discussion, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. And we have the financial statement as of May 31st, so we have a resolution for that, please.
Resolved that May 31st, 2021 financial statement be adopted as presented.
Can I have a mover, please? Counselor Horbus, second. Counselor Spicer, discussion. Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay, we are at the grant 7.3, 731, Interlake Art Board. And I believe that is a request for a grant that we talked about, but we never passed a resolution for the grant to be forwarded. If I remember correctly. Okay, so do we have a resolution for that one?
The resolution for this one, certainly. Resolved, council approve the following 2021 requested grant, Interlake Art Board, $500.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Strang, Councillor Sutherland seconds. Discussion. Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. And the next one we have is a supplemental assessment changes to the tax roll for 2020, and 2021 taxation years. Before you read the resolution, I have a question. I was looking at this, and I guess it's come in a different format than we used to get it. Like, this is really, really hard to see, or, you know, what they're doing or whatever. But I guess my question more is, if we're sending out a bill in July for part of 2020 and part of 2021, when do we start charging penalty on the 2020 taxes? Or is it all at the same time?
We can only start as of December 31st, 2021.
Even for the 2020? And okay.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, is that something new in the act, or? Okay,
No.
that's the only question I have. Go ahead. ahead.
Read it.
Sorry,
Okay,
yeah, sorry.
Whereas the additions and cancellations dated June 18, 2021, be prepared by Kristen Bernard, Assessment Officer, Intergovernment Affairs Assessment Services, are to be added to the tax rolls. And whereas under authority of Section 326 of the Municipal Act, a municipality may impose supplemental taxes for that year or part of the year stated in the list in respect to the said land's personal property or business. Therefore, be it resolved, the list of additions and cancellations dated June 18, 2021 be adopted, and the Chief Administrative Officer be instructed to calculate and enter same in the 2021 tax rolls where applicable to the 2020 tax rolls.
Okay, can I have a mover, please? Counselor Strang, Counselor Spicer seconds. Discussion. Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, opposed, carried.
I had one question.
Oh, I'm sorry, Counselor
I
Spicer.
should have put my hand down, put it back up, sorry. So, do we only get these once a year, or do we expect further
I just-
October,
I think we only get these once a year.
Now,
So-
we'll get a listing again. September, we'll probably get at least 2 or 3 more listings.
2 or 3 more.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so we did pass that resolution, so we can move on to the bylaws. And,
These are the 2 bylaws that had first and second reading, and then, first reading, and they need to have final third reading as part of, these are the 2 bylaws, bylaw 11 and 12, which were reducing our funding for the borrowing authorities that were already provided when we went and used our funding room to create the borrowing for the water treatment plant and the South St. Clements force mains to be constructed. And so we approved this several months ago, but it took several months before it came back from the municipal board, giving us authority to reduce both bylaws approximately $2 million each.
okay, any questions before Deepak reads the resolution for second reading for the bylaw number 11 of 2021? Okay, go ahead, please.
Resolved bylaw 11 of 2021 being a bylaw to amend its bylaw 8 of 2018 to provide for the expenditure of borrowing of funds to complete construction and improvement of water control works, including Guns Creek, Bunds Creek, Floodway Drive, Ashfield, and Grand Marais drainage areas be given second reading.
Can I have a mover, please? Counselor Horbus, second, Counselor Spicer. Discussion. Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, opposed, and that is carried. And there's third reading. Go ahead, Counselor Horbus.
So that was the bylaw where the $3 million were allocated for, that they had borrowed before for the drainage?
That's right.
And out of that $3 million, is there any left?
There's still some left, which is completing on some of the work, somewhere around several $100,000 are left to complete the works this year. And then we'll be able to then,
And then after that, it's gone?
after that, that money is spent.
Okay, and then.
In that $3.5 million, Guns Creek was identified as.
No, I understand all that, but then after that, that's gone, and the only money that will be for drainage is what you had set up to put money towards, right?
Correct.
Right.
And we've added into the operating budget now, which didn't exist before, and which didn't exist in 2020 or 19, which is $40,000 this year, and council can then review again. But we put in $40,000 for every year going forward as an operating budget expenditure. So the intent was, as I recall, when council first lowered the first $3.5 million, was to do all the high priority drainage projects. They were identified and all those were completed. That's why we said, okay, we've met the requirements of why we went with this bylaw. And then we had the leftover borrowing authority because Guns Creek came as 100%. And so there were some projects that are left that are yet to complete. Some of that funding also was because we had some savings. We We put some of that towards the Road 89 drainage, which is going to be happening this year. There's some other sort of finished work that we're contemplating that'll be all done by the end of this year.
Yeah, I remember Greg going over all that. I just wanted to know what was left to go forward, that's all.
Yes, I do have an exact number.
It's okay, it's,
I sent that to Greg just recently, so I have an email on it, I just don't remember it off the top of my head.
okay,
It
thank
was
you.
around 400,000
Okay. Okay, that's
to
okay.
finish off what they had plans to do.
Yeah.
And I think there's,
I thought it was
some of it has
4 or
already
6,
been
I think
spent,
it was 6.
so I think he's in the 300, 200 some thousand range right now.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Spicer, did you have your hand up before? No, you're good.
No, I just interrupted the start.
No, that's okay, I thought you had your hand up, so. Okay, so we are at bylaw number 11 of 2021 for third reading. And remember, it's third reading, so keep your hands up, and I will ask for the resolution, please.
Resolved bylaw 11 of 2021 being a bylaw to amend its bylaw 8 of 2018 to provide for the expenditure and borrowing of funds to complete construction and improvement of water control works, including Guns Creek, Buds Creek, Floodway Drive, Ashfield, and Grand Marais drainage areas be read a third time.
Can I have the please, Councillor Spicer, Councillor Bazarowicz, seconds, discussion. Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried, and that was unanimous, Heather. Thank you. And we will move on to bylaw number 12 of 2021, community recreation facility in South St. Clements.
Again, same as the bylaw 11, there was an entire bylaw identified, or borrowing was identified to complete the entire South St. Clements Recreation or Activity Center. And as part of that, South St. Clements Activity Center included site works, which were the pond and some of the site works in that area. And as we received the funding from the Guns Creek, that accommodated the construction of the storm retention pond and some of the trails, as well as the site works. So the only thing left on the South St. Clements Activity Center was the construction of the building, which was estimated at somewhere around $6 million approximately. And so we felt that we could reduce the budget down to $2 million because the intent is to continue to apply for ISIP funding, which is a third for the future of the building of this project.
So this is a bylaw that we're gonna say that we're gonna put $2 million towards that building?
This authorizes us to borrow $2 million. At such time that we get ISIP approval, that we'll be able to spend it. So the situation is that we have an approval right now for $4.3 million that was sitting there. That was an authorized to borrow, so it has an impact on our borrowing capacity and all those things. And so that's been reduced to what would actually be needed at this point in time, awaiting ISIP approval. So it's an authority to be able to spend, but not necessarily spend until we have all the other funding in place.
So what, to match it 50% or what?
33%.
33%.
Yeah.
So 66% would be supported through provincial and federal.
Oh, and then that's the only time that you can take that $2 million out?
Correct.
Okay.
I guess my question is, how long are we gonna wait to see if those funds are gonna be approved? I mean, we're sitting around the table here with our ISIP grants, and it's going to be now 2 years since we sent those applications in.
Only two?
I think it's 2, it might be 3, no, I think it was 2019. So like, can we just sit on this money until such time? Like, I don't know with the way people are getting money through ISIP for different things, and I think it was said, was it at the June district meeting, that those that will be receiving funding through ISIP have already sort of been notified and are working with the government, and we haven't gotten anything, so does that mean we're out of luck for some ISIP funding for this year?
For this year. And we don't know what will happen for next year as the government continues to look at new programs. They're already changing, you know, the various programs. The gas tax has changed its name, and so the question is, and it's the same question that we have to make on building of the South St. Clements twin force mains, the sewer connections to East Selkirk Lagoon were also put in as an ISIP grant, and there was a concern about construction inflation, and was there any possibility of getting anything, and was there a better opportunity to go to Manitoba Water Services Board? And so we made the application, but made the decision to proceed anyways. In this case, council would have to look at, it wasn't just the 4 million that we had. We knew that the project was going to be significantly higher than the funding that we had available. And that funding also included other things. So if council so chooses, and we can have a discussion on that, is it time to build South St. Clements through borrowing, 100% funded by council, or by taxpayers, or is there an opportunity to look at other funding opportunities? And I think we wanted to keep at least a minimum of a third available in order to do that.
Right. Okay, I have a couple of hands up here. Councillor Sutherland.
You kind of answered it for me.
Oh, did I?
I'd asked a question after that meeting we had, the Zoom meeting, and I wonder when is ISIP going to come? And they said, well, we're probably not going to get it. As they said that there's municipalities that were contacted, if you weren't contacted, you're not getting anything. That's what we kind of went through last meeting.
Yes,
Right?
and so Heather was part of a call last week with municipal relations, the weekly call, and they did say that there would be some more notices coming up this week.
They're finishing reviewing this week, yeah.
And I have been waking up every morning and looking at my email first thing every morning so far.
So far,
We're on
not
Tuesday
yet.
Just looking for tea time.
Go ahead, Councillor Horvitz, you had your hand up.
So do you have to reapply? Like you said, now it's passed, so do we have to reapply to ISIP again?
It'll be not this round of ISIP applications, but it could be new rounds. And it's a matter of where the priorities were established between the province and the federal government on some of those things. As we know, an example, there was also a recreational request for a recreational facility in Springfield that was turned down. We've never received a no. So we're still awaiting for the no. So we're still in the maybe category at this point, as I said.
So, but like, so that's out there. Like the ISIP grants, do you have to, when that comes in, do you have to specify what it's for? Or yeah, you have to, right? You're gonna say, ISIP, we want this money to build this community center, right?
If we have to reapply,
Yeah.
because it's in there already for the community.
When we made the application, it identified all the details associated with it. And it was for the construction of the building. It wasn't for the site works.
So
Site
ISIP,
works were put into it as part of the budget.
ISIP is what part of the 33%? Is that federal or provincial?
Federal and provincial.
So
It's a
that
federal
would be
program.
66% if ISIP comes in?
Yeah.
Yes. In the case of recreation, it even turns a little bit higher. I think it turns into about 70% because they give some extra monies for recreation type.
Yeah.
But if that doesn't come in, then unless council would approve to build that center there and finance it 100%, that's the only way it's gonna happen.
Yes, because unlike the sewer project, there isn't another funding source for these types of projects, such as we had an opportunity to go to the Manitoba Water Services Board for support on sewer and water, but we don't have that.
No, I understand that sewer and water at least gives you your money back, but I mean, if you're gonna put $6,000 into there, you're gonna have another grand rate, you know what I'm saying, sort of thing, so that's where.
Okay, Scott and then Sandra.
Yeah, I think you answered my question was, like, it sounds like there's still like, it's been kind of secretive. You know, oh, well, we've told some people, but they can't say anything, right? But it sounds like there's still some opportunity, so that was my first question. And I guess the second part is, I mean, we don't know if you're gonna need to reply. They change what they ask for each year all the time. One year we had to do a pre-assessment,
Yeah.
and then nothing happened for 2 more years.
Right.
So it's whatever, as Deepak has stated, what the province and the feds ask for.
Yeah.
And
That's how it is.
we did get some money from Water Services for it. We got 800,000.
1.8.
Or, yeah,
Yeah.
900 and 900, sorry.
Yeah.
So we did get some.
Yeah. Sandra, I think you had your hand up.
I just have a question. So, okay, so we don't make this round of ISIP and we have to reapply. Does this bylaw still, it's
Hold?
still, yeah.
It's there until
It's there.
you say you don't want it anymore.
Right. Either you take the money or you rescind the bylaw that you're
Okay.
not going forward.
Which is actually a good thing, because then when you reapply, you would say, well, our money's here.
That's
already.
right.
Right.
That's the bylaw thing. Okay.
Yeah.
And we're shovel ready in the sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so this is for
Second reading.
second reading for the borrowing for the South St. Clements Activity Center. So go ahead with the resolution, please.
Resolve bylaw 12 of 2021 being a bylaw to amend its bylaw 6 of 2018 of the RM of St. Clements to provide for the expenditure of borrowing funds to establish a municipal communities recreation facility in South St. Clements be given second reading.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Bazarowicz moves, Councillor Strank seconds, discussion. Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Okay, so bylaw number 12 of 2021 for third reading. Go ahead, please, Deepak.
Resolve bylaw 12 of 2021 being a bylaw to amend its bylaw 6 of 2018 of the RM of St. Clements to provide for the expenditure and borrowing of funds to establish a municipal community recreation facility in the South St. Clements be read a third time.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Sutherland, second. Councillor Strang, discussion. Hearing and seeing, oh, go ahead, question?
So if this doesn't get, say, 2 years go down the road, does this mean 33%? Or does it only mean up to the 2 million?
Up to the
See,
2
like
million.
inflation will come, right? And now the 6 million turns into 9 million. Does that mean that we'll have to borrow 3 million then? We'd be on the hook for 3, or?
That would
only
mean
up
that
to
we
2?
would have to go through an amendment and go through a public hearing process to increase the borrowing.
So what you're saying now is we're only on the hook for the 2 million?
Correct.
Okay, that doesn't say that in the bylaw, but if you tell me that, I'd read it.
When we did the sewer system here, it was 9 million, they were gonna move it out. By the time we got the money, it was up to 12 or 13 million. We were on the hook for the rest.
Okay,
We're not
So
gonna be-
specifically, what we rely on is the municipal board approval to be able to borrow the funds. Municipal board approval now changes that to decreasing it to $2,350,000. Or 2 million, sorry.
2 million.
2 million.
Yeah.
Reducing it by 2. And so that means we can't borrow anything higher than that, regardless unless we go back to the municipal board to increase.
And council would have to approve it too.
And a public hearing.
yeah,
Exactly.
I was just gonna say, yeah, council chooses to go ahead and not wait for the funding, and it comes in, the building comes in at 6 million, then we have to go through the process of a new borrowing bylaw, plus the public hearing and public consultation, and go from there, so.
See, and not to belabor the issue here, but I must remind, that we had 2 other projects that were identified and there was no borrowing available. So we We had the Water Services Board approval for the water treatment plant, and there was no borrowing available at all, as well as with South St. Clement, so we went forward for the ISIP request. It had no borrowing approved, so we went and did that borrowing. And so at this point, we're in a better position because we have the borrowing available to do this project as opposed to any one of those projects, because that could have, let's say we got an approval from ISIP today or this week for the South St. Clements, if we hadn't done that, that would have taken us another 6 months of going through the public hearing and municipal board process to get through.
Okay. I think I have a mover and a seconder. Any further questions, comments? I'll call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried unanimously. It is third reading. Okay, so that brings us to number 9 on our agendas, which is communications for information. And I'm not sure if there's anything that Deepak wants to share here, or
The new items that were added in there, the Minister of Municipal Relations, there were 3 items that were added in under the Minister of Municipal Relations. They are approvals for grant applications. And so this is where we have some good news, which is we are able to leverage the funding that the RM put forward. The first one is for the trail signage. So they've received a funding approval for the trail signage through, that's mainly working with Beaches of 59 to provide better signage out there, and they've been given, there's no cost to the RM on this one at all, and this is going to be $7,875 to put in a sign for the Beaches of 59 as you're entering into the northern part of our community. And so that's good news. The other good news is the Great Trail parking lot. As you know, that's the parking lot that we've asked as part of the interconnectivity for the Great Trail. It's part of the linear pathway. The Lester family is donating some $10,000 plus in gravel for this project, as well as we've received, can I read the right one? Great Trails parking lot, correct. And so in this one, we've received, and he's still continuing to work with Great Trails to get some additional funding, but it's received $29,000 in approval from almost $30,000 in approval for that project. So that's a leveraging of our $20,000 investment for that project.
you'll have to refresh my memory. Where are they putting a parking lot?
That's on our lands by Sunset.
That's where we're putting the, we'll launch the.
It's right by the Crown lands.
I believe.
Yes. So it's a parking lot, it's a connection, but the intent is it'll be a parking lot for the Great Trail, but it'll also be an ability to do non-motorized boat launch from there, because you can access the water off of Crown lands.
Did we actually,
Not behind the hotel, I mean.
did we actually pick a specific location
It's
for
on
that
our,
boat
yes.
launch?
It's on our land.
When did we do that?
When we did the budget process for this, and when we made the application with the province.
I think you really
I remember us talking about acquiring.
I remember talking about
Not
it, but
acquiring any land.
Folsom Harbor.
This is not acquiring any land, this was our own land.
Okay.
That's there.
In Grand Marais, right?
In Gregory, this is
Yeah.
right in Gregory.
Would that be behind the hotel? Is that where they
I just don't remember.
I don't, yeah.
you're gonna have to refresh our memory as to the exact location, because I know we talked about it and we said, yes, it would be a good thing to do, but I don't recall
Yeah.
saying, oh, that's the place that we wanted.
I thought that was Snowden's property. He
Well,
was
that-
offering us that property.
No, we're not doing it on
No, we're not doing it
Snowden's.
on Snowden's, because there was too much, you had to put too much fill in there.
Yeah?
That wasn't this was off of, I thought it was Sunset. Hang on a second, I'll find it.
all those letters yesterday, I don't believe had any maps or anything included with them.
No, it was when we first went down this project. I'm sorry, I can't remember. Today's not a good memory date for me.
Go ahead, Heather.
On February 23rd,
Okay,
we passed resolve council support the RRMTA grant application for parking area for the Great Trail users and non-motorized water sport access with the Building Sustainable Communities Grant.
yeah, well, I guess they're supposed to make an appointment if they want to come into the office, but that's the second person that's been at the front door today. Who's, went out?
She just left.
Right here.
Yeah, just let the girls know that there was a gentleman and they might catch him, thank you. Heather, can you read the last part of that rest of whatever you were reading there? Because I'm sorry, I lost track here too.
Yeah.
As I recall, it was off of Sunset here. And we own some land, right?
Parking area for the Great Trail users and non-motorized water sport access with the Building Sustainable Communities Grant.
But there's
Is there a
no
map on that one?
specific location.
Unfortunately not, because we were in camera and came out of, so there was nothing on the,
Resolution, but I think in camera we had a.
I don't have, I don't see any attachment. And when I go to that meeting,
Yeah, sir, if you just want to go in here and follow the hallway around, one of the girls will look at you. Are you a realtor? Yeah. Just go in.
As I recall.
Take the street, you walk right around there. Just go all the way around. You're welcome. Find you there.
I'm trying to remember, and I can't remember the location. I'll see if I can remember my email on this.
roll number 787-900.
Oh, perfect. Got it.
Still in there?
Seven, 787.
900.
There is it.
There it is.
Can't hear.
Right here, Gramarye Boulevard, right?
Rob, you're not muted.
Sorry.
That's okay.
I think I remember seeing this.
Yeah.
Right on the bank? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, it's a launch.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I remember seeing this.
On that space there to.
Yeah, it was off of Sunset here, right
Yeah,
here.
but
This lot right in here is where we would put the parking, and people could launch off here, right onto the, 'cause this is, Queen.
Well, that's where the fishing thing was at the end there.
So that's, yeah, where
So the intent was right in this area.
Squaw Beach,
Yeah.
that's what they call it.
It's still, it's still.
Well, is that an old map, is that the extension of Squaw Beach was? It still shows there's nothing there anymore,
I thought there was cottages in there.
Oh, there was years ago, trying to think of the people's name.
So the intent was right in here. We'd be coming off of here, then we'd be able to come into this area right in here. There'd be a parking, we said we would leave the trees. Those
that
discussions
road
about.
comes, I know the spot.
And then,
It comes to-
and then this would be the launch area for anyone that wanted to just take a non-motorized boat and just carry it
I
across.
know the area now. I don't remember us, but I know.
Well, I kind of know the area now too, but I don't remember us specifically pinpointing that that's where it was going to be.
Laura did run for.
Oh, I remember that
Is
very
that our
specifically.
Is that our?
Yeah, I remember Ken and I were going looking at that.
Go ahead, Councillor Belanger.
If that's where we're gonna put a non-motorized deployment place from, like a egress place, you'll have to cut a bit of a trail or a bit of a something down to the water's edge, correct?
Correct.
Okay,
There'd be a trail put in from Sunset Avenue that would go inside here where they'd be able to park, and then there'd be a trail to lead out, and then people would be able to take it to, right up to the Crown Land, which is right here.
That Laura did run.
Or, can you see that, Councilor? You can't see that? Hang on.
That's,
Oh, yeah, you can see
that's
that.
at the end of that.
Okay, that's where his place is.
Yeah, there's two houses, yeah, I know.
See, this is our right of way here.
There was houses right at the end there when you come down that road to the fisherman's.
Okay, so this is Sunset, you were looking at Sunset Avenue as it says on the GIS.
Correct.
Okay.
Are there concerns?
Well, I guess, I don't know if there's concerns, but looking at what you've got there, you mentioned about not destroying any trees. It looks pretty heavily treed there, so
It is.
what are you going?
There would be some trees removed for the parking requirement, but it wouldn't, like, it was to make sure that the buffer from the road and so forth would be respected as much as possible.
And how big of a parking lot are we looking at there, like for how many vehicles? Because it's not motorized, there shouldn't be any trailers because they're kayaks or whatever. About how many vehicles?
I can't remember, I think Dan had a specific size in mind. I can't remember the size.
So this is Dan working on this and not
This is-
Gary?
This is Dan, Red River North Trails Association doing it.
Okay.
This is one of the 3 grants we got.
So they would do most of the work.
They would do all the work, yeah.
Okay. I know what it is now. Don't remember us talking about.
So they're doing the launch and everything then? Like, there's not gonna be much of a launch, but,
It's not gonna be much of a launch, it's just making that accessible. It's connecting it to the Great Trail, offering parking. The principle here is to get the funding from the federal support for the Great Trail, is to be able to say that it's parking for that Great Trail, people can walk it. At the same point, the added benefit is you can bring a canoe or a kayak and launch off of it. And so I meant 2 requirements that we had talked about. We had specifically talked about doing a non-motorized boat launch from this location, and we were going to use part of the $100,000 that we had allocated towards boat launches, so $20,000 this project, and $80,000 was left over that we would take a look at doing St. Peter's, something off St. Peter's Road, as that's what Gary's working on right now, and maybe something off of, something over here by the hydro lands, but that would require some negotiations with the hydros, was the other one, just off of Prairie Road. So those are the other 2 possibilities, because there was lots of discussions occurred in the past about doing a boat launch and Grand Marais. There was no suitable location found. So we said, let's do, maybe we can't do a large, significant boat launch, but we can do something similar, something that can at least achieve some ability for people to get access to water with their boats. One was non-motorized, the other one was a little bit more motorized, but with just a straightforward kind of a launch at St. Peter's and here, and that's it.
I got one more thing to add here.
Yeah, go ahead, Councillor Sutherland.
As far as the research, Dan Lester would do all of that because that area, you were in this, what's that bird, the pipe?
Piping
The
plover.
government would, and that area was part of it.
Yep.
You couldn't do any remediation there, there was nothing that could be touched. Pipe plover.
It's a piping plover.
Piping.
Yeah, where that island is there.
Yeah.
So I.
You'll have to make sure that
Dan
it's all the
Lester's aware
appropriate
about it,
permits
what he has to,
and
yeah.
approvals, yeah.
Go ahead, Councillor Boulanger.
Yeah, where this proposed parking lot and a little bit of a walking path to make a non-motorized boat launch, it's not anywhere near where the piping plover nest. The piping plover nest more on the spit. They don't nest on this muddy, swampy shoreline.
Okay.
Is there still some spit there? Because I thought that it was kind of disappearing too.
It's gone.
No, there's nothing there. It's just shallow bay water.
Okay, okay, good. And I think the parcel of land that we're looking at is actually roll number 787800, because 7879 is just a little sliver.
Correct.
Okay. Okay. All right. So Deepak was telling us about the.
The Great Trail parking lots.
Yes,
The next one
thank
is
you.
an additional, sorry for interrupting, Madam Mayor.
That's okay. I was trying to gather my thoughts.
And I should have let you gather your thoughts first.
No, that's okay. You go right
And
ahead.
so the third one is an additional, is another $20,000 approved funding for the Grand Marais Greenway Safe Crossing Project. This is the crossing at Path 12 from one side of the road to the other to connect to GMCC. And so what this will do is put in a proper crossing and then connect it as part of the trail system that's already there. And so we received the funding for this, another additional good news.
Yeah.
That's more leverage funding to be able to do our trails projects. So every trails project we applied for this year have been approved. All our BS, building sustainable community projects have been approved.
Okay, so is there anything else? I included the executive director's report from RRPD for this month, and I'm not sure if there's anything else that we wanted to touch on here.
The other was just general information, to make sure the council received all these letters and information.
Okay. All right, so that takes us now to council reports. And Councillor Boulanger, seeing as you're not sitting in the room with us, I'm going to ask you to go first for your council report. You're muted.
Sorry about that.
That's
I
okay.
have nothing to report, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you for that. I'm going to go around the table here. Councillor Spicer.
Since our last meeting of June the 8th, June the 10th, I had a Gaynor Regional Library meeting. It was a regular meeting. Typical, going through minutes of the previous meeting, financial statement, librarian report for April and May. We're still on curbside. That could change in the next while, depending on what the government comes up with. They've started the Legacy of Love project. Most of the staff is elected to get vaccinated, which is good news. They've started using the Square so they can do online payments, so that's helping a little bit with getting some revenue. We're still at approximately 2/3 of normal circulation on books, and ebooks continues to grow. The kids' programming is being done by Zoom. We're considering the possibility of outdoor baby time, but if not, it will be Zoom. Seniors are still getting book drop-off done. We did have a little challenge with the geothermal, and that bit into our budget a little bit, as well as the fire inspection was done, and there was a few things that needed to be rectified. We're doing our best to conserve costs. There is a concern of going into the red by the end of the year. All of the grants are current. The strategic plan still has been tabled until we can get together in person. And we're looking at some different fundraising options, and I'd like to thank our CAO, because I've been bending his ear, because he has some experience with his volunteer side. So that's about it, unless there's any questions, and I didn't have any other meetings than that one.
Okay, thank you for that. Anybody have anything for Scott? Go ahead, Councillor Strang.
June 9th had Red River North Tourism meeting, and just to give you a quick update, murals, the endangered species mural was soon to be installed in its new location. And I know that we'll be having, with us making our donation, that our name will be put on the plaque too. Their name is going to be on there also. I did discuss with them about, we brought it, our CAO brought it about the fishing line. Those, it was with Clear Your Gear. Was that, we had a discussion last? They were going to be meeting with them because they were going to be sponsoring, but even with the information that they got, they weren't so sure of what you get for your donation or how much it was, because I said I wanted to bring it back to our council also, since we discussed it, but they haven't gotten back to me on that either since their since our last meeting. They are redoing their website right now, and just to make it more user friendly, and they're hooking up better to the Driftscape. I'm not sure what we are all going to be having on. I haven't had a listing yet of what we are promoting through our RM on Driftscape either. But sort of Interlake and Red River North are working together on that one program. Canada Day activities. The city of Selkirk has given Red River North, you've probably seen it, they've been promoting just for decorating your home like they did for Christmas. The city of Selkirk has given Red River North $15,000 this year to promote the city of Selkirk more. So that is one of their things that they're doing, because I said, is it in all the RMs? And they said no, that was one of the things that the city of Selkirk did on its own with the monies that they're spending. So 55 plus games are moved over to 2022. And one of the other things that they brought up was they were asking about our RM donation. And I said I'd check on that also, that whether we put something through. But I checked with Shannon and nothing has gone through our council. And I just didn't know if they had to do come and do a presentation, because they did last year. They did, and I think it was right before COVID hit that we had them here in the chamber, that they did a presentation on the Red River North Tourism. So, but they can always join with Zoom too. So I said I would get back to them that, just to clarify what they had to. And then I wasn't sure if it was one of our groups, because we had a selection there that was just automatically that we gave them money. So I wasn't sure with that. That's all I was going to say.
Verify that we're going to have to. One of the things I should do is I'll work with Shannon to see all the ones that we normally did give grants to, based on this year's discussions around grants, is that we should approach everyone and make sure that they fill in the applications. Because last year we received, because of COVID, we received a lot of them on the fly. And the year before, I think there were grants, this year we were trying to start anew. And I want to make sure that we at least send out a notice to let them know this is the process you should try to follow.
Well, I noticed Shannon made a comment that 8,000, and I think that's what they were asking for. I thought 5,000, and then I have written in my notes here that Red River North put 3,000, so I feel like it goes lower and lower all the time. But something tells me we gave them 5,000 last year, so.
I thought we cut it back because of COVID, didn't we?
I don't know. I know that it was 8. I think we cut it back to 5 again. Like we gave them 5 the year previous, and I think we cut it back to 5 again. But I don't
thought
know.
they came twice last year. I'll double check.
Yeah, just
Well, we had
Maybe
at
it's
our, we had at our last meeting, now we're talking about Red River North tourism.
right. And I just didn't have my budget pages because I know we had a selection.
Yeah, we had it last meeting, but I can't put my finger on Red River North tourism.
Anyways, I told them I'd get back to them.
Okay, anything else?
My other one was Red River Planning on June 16th, and, well, they're bursting at the seams. They went live, I think I reported last time, they're June 7th, they went live with Cloud Permit, and it's still going very well. I've heard of some people in our area that have used it, because I have said to them, hey, instead of going down to the office, use Cloud Permit, and they say it's went through everything, so.
That's good to know.
And one of the things from the meeting, subdivisions, their budget is up 238%. So, like Selkirk has one subdivision coming with 109 lots. One section of West St. Paul is 122 lots. So, they're very busy right now. 40% of the budget is usually at Christmas time. Right now, at this time, that they're sitting 60% budget increase to right now, rather than they still have how many more months to go. Another concern from Red River Planning was Bill 37, and most of it was the population stats and the size of lots. And that's probably about it. And then you have, the mayor added in already Jennifer's executive director's report there, so.
Yeah, a question I have is, where is that endangered species mural?
It is going to be going up, right down by Roxy's.
Selkirk.
Yeah, I thought it was gonna be by Roxy's on that building on the side there.
The one on the side is the showing.
That's on the west side, or the east side of Roxy's parking lot, is the show
Right.
and shine one. I finally saw it the other day.
So
And it's,
is that on the healthcare building, that one?
Yeah, it says to be facing the mural on Roxy's.
Oh, so it'll be here and then this one.
That one's gonna be on.
well, there is a mural on Roxy's building, but I don't know that it's the endangered species one. And then if you go across Roxy's parking lot, the
Is the
show and shine.
This is from the back.
And from what I thought, that one wasn't even fully finished, because it said 90%.
This used to be there in that building.
No, because there was something on the news the other day, and I saw it online, that they were unveiling a mural in Selkirk. And I thought it was that endangered species one.
Good question. Yeah, they just said it was gonna be on the, facing the mural on Roxy's. But to me, that would be the one that's, the show and shine one, facing the mural on Roxy's, right?
That's right. Okay, I guess we'll see when we see it.
Our name should also be on the one for the show and shine also.
I didn't look that close.
I don't know if they finished the show and shine one yet. I think they said it's only 90% complete.
Okay. Okay, anything else for your report?
Nope, that's it.
Okay, Councillor Sutherland.
I have nothing to report, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Councillor Corbis.
I'd like to second that, Madam Mayor.
And Councillor Bazarov.
Otherwise, it's unanimous. Nothing to report at this time.
Okay, I just have a couple here. We had a John Q meeting. Was again update on the fiber project and also another project that they're working on that is somewhat confidential still at this point in time. We are getting closer. I guess they are having some difficulties. RF now is working in Headingley and they've made presentations in Stonewall. And they're looking at where equipment could be installed in Rockwood. They have also presented to the Arm of Portage. As far as sales, things that are holding and trying to get fiber in the ground. June 11th, the same day, Deepak and I met with Peguis and some of the people. Invitation was received, and I think Deepak did send out a note to everybody that they wanted to discuss the service agreement. It was very short notice, but I guess I felt that we waited for a long time, that we should sit down with them, and we were able to look at a few things and perhaps come to some conclusions, but I think we're going to have some discussion in our in-camera session, so I won't go into anything there. I guess one of the two things that they're talking about mainly is firefighting services and road maintenance, so we'll talk about that in camera. RRPD regular meeting, Councillor Strang kind of went through that, and I guess, and I apologize that I didn't let you know, but from June 15th to 17th, I had numerous media interviews and phone calls from various news outlets, right from Toronto to BC, and you know, local ones, and I even had one this morning from a local paper from the Clippers. So all I can say is my heart went out to the people in the area that had to be on edge because of, you know, one person is missing and they're looking for another person, and I'm very pleased that the not the RCMP, but the OPP were able to arrest the person that our RCMP were looking for. We haven't heard much since he's been arrested, so, and that's all I have. Back.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My report is, and I'll just share it. And so some specific things, the capital borrowing status and review, as we just went through, bylaws 11 and 12, we finally received, after a couple of months, approval from the municipal board to be able to reduce our borrowing authorities on those two projects. The other is tenders. The water software project is going out to tender as we work with Medical Water Services Board to deliver that project. And then the design of the wastewater force main is also complete and is going out to tender, while the detailed design of the water mains to Lockports is being completed as we speak. We should be going out to tender probably this week for that as well. And it is anticipated there might be some budget savings on this one as an overall project costs. Just to specifically identify the wastewater project, we'll also have the reject water line installed for the water treatment plant in there, because it's all similar work, and hopefully we can do some cost savings there. The ARM offices have been closed to the public, and now that and we've been open to appointments only, but now right now there hasn't been any major changes to the health orders. If they do happen, because there's lower numbers, and the numbers in Winnipeg and Toronto province are going down, we'll take a look at adjusting as we need to, as we move forward. And then we'll communicate that to our residents. I suspect we should be beginning to open more as we come. The next is general meetings that I've attended. Meeting with John Duff and the RCMP on the policing updates. I did identify in the previous meeting, but this is my written information. Provincial Province Manitoba Bill 37 Working Group although Bill 37 has been approved, the regulations are still being worked on, and they've asked the group to continue moving. They've also asked for public notification of who the members are of the working group, so that'll be coming out as a list of all the names for the people that are part of that working group. Guns Creek diversions at Scatliff, we've had several meetings on the Guns Creek diversion as we move forward with Scatliff, Miller Murray, as well as KGS, addressing challenges and design requirements as we move forward, as well as addressing easement issues and so forth. Efficiency Manitoba was a webinar on looking at various, Efficiency Manitoba is the new Power Smart, and they just talked about what are some of the opportunities available. Developers on the Henderson Highway, take a look at it. The committee of the whole that we had as a meeting, the webinars with WMR and Scatliff Miller Murray on various projects outside of Guns Creek, including the Manitoba Water Services Board meeting with on the Lockport treatment plant, and as well as the wastewater treatment plant and their force mains. And then there's the RPD meetings regularly on planning files, and the developers on affordable housing that I've been telling you that I've been meeting with, who are looking at doing some affordable housing in our community. And then CMR and WSP and the Water Services Board for the easement on the right-of-way from Highway 44 to CIL Road, is to be able to secure that easement. I've received the information from WSP. Heather is now collecting the detailed parcel information, and that will go forward to CEMR. And Greg Tremblay is working on the easement as we speak. And the other is our WMR on Municipal Natural Assets Initiative. That's another part of the project. We're beginning to work on it. Brenna is doing the recording. Brenna and I've attended the webinar on it, and we're going to try to map, monitor, and manage, and identify all the various natural assets we have in our community. And the other is a municipal services agreement with PEGWIS, as the mayor's already talked about, which as it is a legal agreement, we'll be discussing further in a meeting in camera. Various general meetings with business operations and developers, as well as the Grand Marais Recreation Center. There was an issue there that we'll also update on.
Okay, any questions for Deepak from council?
Yep.
Okay, I can't see you. Go ahead, Councillor Boulanger.
Just to the administrator, various meetings with Scatliff. What's the latest on progress on public consultation on the Colville sidewalk and any kind of getting together with the community? I guess because of COVID we still can't, but is it still looking like maybe later this fall that we might do something?
It's still looking like probably later or early this fall that we'll be doing something. The person has been assigned to the project, and that person is going to be working on developing some detailed plans on what type of consultation. I've asked that if we can't do any kind of normal consultation that we're used to doing, that if they can come back with some other options of how we can consult our community.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anybody else have anything? Okay, Heather, do you have anything that you would like to share with us today?
Not right now.
Not right now, okay. So then it is time to go in camera, and we also have our supper break now. So I'm going to ask for a resolution to go in camera.
Resolved, council recess the regular meeting and go into in-camera to discuss legal and personnel issues, and further be it resolved that all matters discussed are to remain confidential as per section 83(1)(b) of the Municipal Act.
Okay, moved by Councillor Bazaroa, second Councillor Strang. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, opposed, and carried. Okay, we'll let Heather stop the recording, and then we'll have our supper break, and we'll go in camera.
I'll close the door.